Emily Sanders stepped out of the car and onto the crumbling driveway, gazing up at the mansion that was now hers. She felt a mix of emotions: excitement, curiosity, and a hint of trepidation. Her great-aunt Margaret's legacy was shrouded in mystery, and the locals whispered about the strange happenings within these walls. Daniel, her husband, came up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist. "We're really doing this, Em. We're starting a new chapter." Emily smiled, feeling a sense of adventure wash over her. "We sure are." As they entered the mansion, they were struck by the grandeur of the high ceilings, the sweeping staircase, and the faded opulence of a bygone era. The air was musty, but the scent of old books and wood polish lingered, hinting at the stories these walls could tell. After a few hours of exploring, they settled into their new home, taking baths and changing into comfortable clothes. As night fell, they curled up in bed, feeling the exhaustion of the day's journey. As they drifted off to sleep, the mansion creaked and groaned around them, its old bones settling into the night. The storm outside subsided, leaving an eerie silence in its wake. The next morning, they woke up feeling refreshed, ready to tackle the task of unpacking and exploring their new home. Little did they know, the mansion had secrets waiting to be uncovered, and the silence was only the calm before the storm. As they began to unpack, Emily couldn't help but feel a sense of excitement and wonder. The mansion was vast, with rooms upon rooms waiting to be explored. She wandered through the halls, running her fingers over the intricate carvings and dusty portraits. Daniel, meanwhile, was busy setting up his computer and equipment in the library. He was determined to get some work done, despite the distractions of their new surroundings. As the day wore on, Emily found herself growing more and more restless. She couldn't shake the feeling that something was off, that they were being watched. She tried to brush it off as mere paranoia, but the sensation only intensified as the sun began to set. "Daniel, can you come here for a minute?" Emily called out, her voice barely above a whisper. Daniel looked up from his work, a look of concern on his face. "What's wrong?" Emily hesitated, feeling a shiver run down her spine. "I don't know. I just feel like we're not alone in this house." Daniel raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" Emily shook her head, feeling a sense of unease. "I don't know. It's just a feeling, like we're being watched or something." Daniel chuckled. "You're just spooked because we're in a new place. It's normal, Em." But Emily knew what she felt, and it wasn't just nerves. She knew that they were not alone in this house, and she was determined to uncover the truth. As the night drew in, Emily's unease only grew. She tried to distract herself by unpacking boxes and organizing their belongings, but her mind kept wandering back to the strange feeling that they were being watched. Daniel, oblivious to her concerns, settled in for a night of work, typing away on his computer as the hours ticked by. But Emily couldn't shake the sensation that they were being observed. She kept catching glimpses of movement out of the corner of her eye, only to turn and find no one there. It wasn't until she heard the creaking floorboard that she realized she wasn't alone. The sound came from the room next door, a soft groan that seemed to come from the very foundations of the house. "Daniel, did you hear that?" Emily whispered, her heart racing. Daniel looked up from his work, a look of confusion on his face. "Hear what?" But before Emily could respond, the creaking grew louder, a low moan that seemed to come from all around them. The creaking grew louder, a low moan that seemed to come from the very walls of the mansion. Emily's heart raced as she felt the floorboards beneath her feet begin to vibrate. "Daniel, something's going on," Emily whispered urgently, her eyes scanning the darkness beyond the flickering candles. Daniel's expression changed from confusion to concern as he heard the strange noises. "What is that?" he asked, his voice low and cautious. Suddenly, a cold breeze swept through the room, extinguishing the candles and plunging them into darkness. Emily felt a presence behind her and spun around, but there was no one there. "Daniel, I think we should get out of here," Emily whispered, her voice trembling. But as they turned to leave, they heard the sound of footsteps echoing through the hallway, heavy and deliberate. The footsteps grew louder, echoing off the walls as they approached. Emily's heart raced with every step, her mind racing with worst-case scenarios. Daniel's grip on her hand tightened as they stood frozen in fear. Suddenly, a figure loomed in the doorway, its presence seeming to fill the entire room. Emily's breath caught in her throat as the figure took a step closer, its features illuminated by a faint moonlight filtering through the windows. It was a woman, her face deathly pale, her eyes sunken and dark. Her gaze fixed on Emily, and she felt a chill run down her spine. "Welcome to my home," the woman said in a voice that sent shivers down Emily's spine. "I've been waiting for you." Emily's mind raced as she tried to process what was happening. Who was this woman? And how did she know they were coming? The woman's gaze never wavered, her eyes fixed on Emily with an unnerving intensity. "You're Margaret's niece, aren't you?" she asked, her voice low and husky. Emily nodded, her voice caught in her throat. The woman's lips curled into a faint smile. "I've been waiting for you, Emily. You have something that belongs to me." Daniel stepped forward, his eyes narrowing. "What are you talking about?" The woman's gaze never left Emily's face. "The journals, Emily. Margaret's journals. They're mine, and I'll do whatever it takes to get them back." Emily's heart raced as she realized what the woman was after. Her great-aunt's journals, filled with secrets and stories of the supernatural. What did this woman want with them, and how far would she go to get them? The woman's eyes seemed to bore into Emily's soul, her gaze intense and unyielding. Emily felt a shiver run down her spine as she realized the depth of the woman's obsession. "I don't know what you're talking about," Emily lied, trying to sound convincing. The woman's smile grew wider, her eyes glinting with a knowing light. "Don't play dumb, Emily. I know Margaret left her journals to you, and I know you've read them." Emily's heart raced as she realized the woman's true intentions. She was after more than just the journals. She was after the secrets they contained. "Who are you?" Emily demanded, trying to keep her voice steady. The woman's smile faltered for a moment, and Emily caught a glimpse of something darker beneath the surface. "My name is Elizabeth," she said finally, "and I've been waiting a long time for this moment." As Elizabeth took a step closer, Emily felt a surge of fear. She was trapped in the mansion, with no escape from the woman's sinister intentions. And Daniel, her husband, seemed frozen in place, unable to intervene. Elizabeth's eyes gleamed with an unsettling intensity as she reached out a bony hand towards Emily. "The journals, Emily. Where are they?" Emily's heart raced as she backed away, her eyes darting towards Daniel, but he seemed frozen in place, unable to move or speak. Suddenly, Elizabeth's hand shot out, grasping Emily's arm with a grip like a vice. Emily cried out in pain as Elizabeth's fingers dug deep into her skin. "You're not going anywhere," Elizabeth hissed, her eyes blazing with a malevolent fury. Daniel finally snapped out of his trance, lunging towards Elizabeth with a fierce cry, but she was too strong, and she flung him across the room with a flick of her wrist. Daniel crashed to the floor, dazed and helpless. Emily screamed as Elizabeth's grip tightened, her fingers closing around her wrist like a manacle. Just as Elizabeth was about to deliver the final blow, a loud crash echoed through the hallway, breaking the spell. Elizabeth's head whipped around, her gaze fixed on something behind Emily. Emily turned to see a figure standing in the doorway, a look of determination on their face. "You're not taking anything else from this family," they said, their voice firm. Elizabeth's face twisted with rage as she realized she was outnumbered. With a snarl, she vanished into thin air, leaving Emily shaken but relieved. As the dust settled, Emily turned to the newcomer, gratitude in her eyes. "Thank you," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. The figure smiled, their eyes crinkling at the corners. "You're welcome, Emily. I'm your great-aunt Margaret's friend, and I've been watching over you from the shadows." And with that, the mystery of the mansion began to unravel.